global project. It's the enduring issue, and my enduring issue is human rights violation. There's several things from this time period that I could have chosen. I chose two, and then, of course, a current event that is also a part of this enduring issue. So, to start off, we have this. This is communist Russia. As
Good night.
anyways, ignore what just happened. This is communist Russia. Communist Russia. It started with the Russian Revolution, which started on March 8th of 1917, and it didn't end until January 6th of 1918. The Russian Revolution was in between people that were communists and people that weren't communists, and then in the end, the communists won. Communists took over, and then there were still some people in the country who wouldn't pay and like stuff like that. They wouldn't give the government their money. So this right here is an example of people. This is like they would start famine, so they wouldn't give them food. Everything was owned by the government in communism. It still is owned in communism, saying people are still communist, but everything is owned by the government. So like flags would be hung everywhere, but people wouldn't pay. So then stuff like this. This is to simulate nighttime. Give me a second. You probably can't see my face for a second here. Anyways, this is simulate nighttime. That's the moon up there. These are like lights, because the lights they wouldn't turn the lights on because they wouldn't give them like electric or anything, because they wouldn't pay the government. Part 2. This is Auschwitz, or the best I could do with Auschwitz. You can see there's the Axis sign. Over here, these are crematoriums, gas chambers, everything. Stuff like this right here. These are like their living quarters, the barracks, whatever. This is where they would sleep. As you can see, there's barely any space, and you had to fit so many people in here. They had so many things, like they had POW camps here. Once World War II started, they took Jews here. The Holocaust started in 1933 and didn't end sometime in 1933. It's kind of unsure when it started, but it started in 1933 at some point, and then it didn't end until May 8th of 1945. What this did was you brought Jews from Germany, from Adolf Hitler, who was the leader during World War II, everything like that. He brought Jews in here because they blamed everything that happened before basically on the Jews. So they would bring them into these concentration camps, and then eventually they would bring in POWs once World War II started and everything. Sorry about my controller right now, it's a little broken. But yeah, like as you can see here, this flag here, and if I go back in here, there's the communist flag right there. Or the Soviet Union, USSR, whatever you want to say. Also over here, because they would have to work in the fields at these concentration camps. This is one of them. Auschwitz is the most known, of course. Then they would have mostly like coal they would be mining and stuff like that. Yeah, that's basically the basis of this, but as well as making these two little towns right here that I made myself. We had to connect it to a current event, something that's going on today, because these things happened the 1917, 1918. In this part, most of this happened when Stalin was in rule, which was from 1922 until 1952. So for 30 years, this is what communist Russia looked like until the Cold War. Stalin died, and then even throughout the Cold War, it kept going with other leaders until 1992-ish, 1990s. Yeah. This is supposed to be a school right here. The schools weren't exactly in the best conditions. The houses here, houses still aren't. But anyways, back. The current issues. A current issue involving this is that stuff like this is happening today with communism. There's other people that are communist here. Like today, and the best example of that, if I just take these down, put all of these flags up. Give me 1 minute. Just flag up here. This is just, I'll just set up my signs for you. This is the Axis sign, this is Soviet Union sign, and this is the North Korea flag. What North Korea is doing this still today. We know about it. We've seen it in class sometimes. They don't turn on the lights at night. People are dying. They don't give them things because they won't pay, because North Korea runs everything. So North Korea owns this house. There's no private properties. North Korea owns this house. North Korea owns that school, and they teach the school what they want to teach the school. They don't pay anything to them. They don't do any of this, because this is what happens in communism. The government owns everything, and then they can choose everything. And then if you don't want to pay them, if you don't go with them, they can kill you, or they famine you. And that's what is happening in Korea. They're forced famine. Not paying electric, not giving them food. So a lot of the time, this is what like a village would look like. There's nothing in these houses, no people, nothing, because what happened was people just ended up dying because they couldn't eat, they couldn't get electricity for stuff, they couldn't get water, they can't get anything, they stopped running water, everything like that. That's what North Korea is doing today. Soviet Union did that all the way back in the 19 from like the 1920s to the 1990s. So that's what they did. And then, yeah, that's the current event. The current event is human rights violations. So, like this, communist Russia, they forced famine, they made it so people couldn't eat, they made it so people couldn't drink, everything like that. Auschwitz, with the Axis powers, didn't give their people, they didn't give them good conditions, they didn't give them much food, if any, and then they ended up putting them in crematoriums, gas chambers, etc. Then North Korea is doing the same exact thing as Soviet Union and doing this. So that's the end of my project. I hope you liked it. It took me quite a lot of time to think all of this through. And yeah.